That's what Paul's talking about specifically here, the wisdom of God. He says in verse 9, but as it is written, no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the heart of man imagined what God has prepared for those who loved him. These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit. Adam Clarke, in his commentary, put it this way. The words of 1 Corinthians 2:9 have been applied to the state of glory in a future world. How many of you have quoted this verse that way? It does have an application, not from this text, not from the context here. There are things in store for us in the future and in heaven that we don't have any clue about, and it's going to be better than we can ever imagine. But this verse has been quoted many times applying to a future world or future glory. He says, but certainly these verses belong to the present state and express merely the wondrous light, life, and liberty which the gospel communicates to us as believers. And I want to challenge each one of us as Christians to examine the context of Scripture, especially when we memorize Scripture. This is a verse I've memorized, and I didn't understand that it's not talking about some future state. It's talking about our life right now. The wisdom of God has been revealed to us right now. And think about it in that way. No eye has seen, and no ear has heard, nor has the heart of man imagined what God has prepared for those who love him right now. In this life, the wisdom of God takes us into a whole new realm where we experience life like we've never expected it. A life greater than we ever imagined could exist. And this isn't temporary prosperity. This is not a prosperity gospel. This is talking about all the promises of God that apply to us even in suffering. And I love what Vance Havner said. He said, the promises of God are not mere mottos to hang on a wall, but checks to be cashed. The promises of God are checks to be cashed. We can enjoy them right now in this life. And that's what Paul is talking about in the wisdom of God. It's also important to notice that Paul is quoting an Old Testament verse, Isaiah 64, verse 4, which says, from of old no one has heard or perceived by the ear, no eye has seen a God besides you who acts for those who wait for him. So the context in the Old Testament and the New Testament has to do with our life, walking in obedience to God. In the Old Testament, this in the context of judgment and mercy. God's people were in exile. They were being judged, but they're repenting and calling on him for mercy. And they were judged because of their disobedience. And Paul is quoting this verse in context, not just to remind us that one day we're going to die and go to heaven and experience all these great things that God has for us, but he intends for his wisdom to affect us in our life right now.